There are many different components to socializing a puppy. One of the components is sound sensitivity. What we want to do is we want to desensitize puppies to different sounds. So in this video, that's what I'm going to show you. Here I have a cap gun. Every time I fire it, I throw a treat. The next item that I'm going to use is a 1-liter water bottle. You can see that Brian doesn't like that sound, so he ran away from it. What I'm going to do now then is just scale it right back. I'm holding the bottle and I'm hardly making any noise with it. With each noise that I make, I'm making sure to throw a treat. Now I throw the bottle on the floor so that Brian can investigate it. With each investigation, I'm going to give him a treat. It's really important that you let the dog investigate on their own with no pressure. Any interest in the object is rewardable. You'll notice I throw the treat away from the object. That gives Brian space, and it gives him the opportunity to leave the object and decide if he wants to go back to it or not. Because I've given complete control over to Brian whether or not he wants to interact with the object, when he accidentally walks over it and it makes a sound, it doesn't even startle him. In just a few minutes, what we have done is we have taken an object that made a sound that was very scary to Brian, and we made that sound not frightening to him anymore. The next noisemaker that we have is a hand clapper. When you rattle it, it makes a sound of clapping. Every time I make the clapping sound, I follow it with a treat. Now I'm holding the clapper out, and Brian is sniffing it, and I'm saying yes and throwing a treat. This is giving Brian the opportunity to investigate the object. Every time he touches it, I say yes and I throw a treat on the floor. Now what I'm doing is I'm touching Brian with the object. I'm only doing this because he had no problem with the sound of the object and he had no problem touching the object. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the object and I'm petting him with it. Next I switch back to clapping and making noise with the object and make that rewardable for Brian. You'll notice that I'm increasing the intensity of the noise. I have also paired that with aggressive movement. Because none of the noise and the aggressive movement was bothering him, now I'm going back to petting Brian with the clapper. After each pet, I'm making sure to say yes and throw a treat for Brian. The next sound that I'm using is a blowhorn. As the exercise progresses, what you're going to notice is Brian becomes uncomfortable with the sound. So what I do is I stop making sound and I just hold the object and I let him interact with it. Every time he touches that object, I say yes and I throw a treat. If he was too afraid to touch it, I would even just reward him for looking at it. Now that he's touched it a few times, I'm going to have it make a little bit of a sound again and make that rewardable. Because he was good with that, I'm going to make the sound a little louder.